It's June 20th, 2022, and it's been quite some time since we've been back here to the farm, but this would be the third farm log. And it's been, I think, a little over a year since we've come back. But there's quite a few changes, quite a few progressions, and maybe a few losses, if I can think of some. But some stuff we've added here over time is this is a Rangoon creeper, one of the ones from home. And that's also something that's happening right now is I will be moving everything from home out here to the farm so I can go ahead and plant them, find them a spot out here and plant them out here. But here within a couple of weeks, there's going to be some rapid changes happening out here, and that's because I'll be planting a whole lot of my plants, putting them all into the ground out here. So that transplantation process is going to be a fragile one because I'm going to need water. Hopefully the rains come through and I can find a really good time to put them into the ground so that rain could help the plant establish itself. Well, all the plants establish themselves. But back to it, this is a Rangoon creeper, and I created this little trellis here out of a tree branch so that it can climb it, at least for now. And I'm going to keep it small so that it doesn't overwhelm this tree branch here, because even though this tree branch, well, it seems kind of flimsy, but it's actually pretty strong. Some pretty strong wood right there. As long as I maintain it and keep it from overwhelming this little trellis, we won't have any problems. Here is one of the noni plants. This is actually an offshoot that I took from home and I put it out here. I didn't do a video on it, but there's quite a few offshoots coming off of the main noni plant, and this is one of them. So this is also something else I'll be applying out here at the farm. Is you see these banana leaves that I have all around the base of my my plants, and this is to not only suppress weeds but to also keep the moisture in the soil around the plant so that the plant can eventually grow its roots down through the plant itself. I know a lot of you may be thinking, why don't I just take it out of the pot and transplant it? Well, I don't plan to permanently keep them here, but even if they do end up here permanently, it'll do perfectly fine. And I do this with the plants that can handle staying in pots but also having its roots go through into the ground. So the banana leaves are for moisture retainment and also fertilizer and weed suppression. So this mulch here serves three purposes. And these are banana leaves, so they are pretty high in potassium, which helps with the flowering process. And hopefully that flowering process leads to some fruits. Here, as you can see, is the same thing, but this is one of the cacao plants that I have out here. This one was planted a year after the first one was put out here, and the first one is down here somewhere behind the mango tree, and we'll get there eventually. Here's that sugar cane. It's still here. A lot of it was eaten up by the feral hogs. I mentioned that, I think, in the last video. The hogs like to come out here and eat the sugar cane, but lots of weeds growing on this. I'm not worried about it. They don't do too much to suppress the growth of the sugar cane, but I do want to thin this out. I don't want too many critters living in there, so I'm going to thin this out and probably leave maybe 5 sugar cane stalks and let them go. Here, very proud to say, is the mango tree, and as you can see, it has grown significantly. This thing is now, if you look at the first farm log, you'll see it's just a tiny little thing in the dirt, and all this grass here was dirt. You could find the link to the first farm log up here, and if not, you can go ahead and look in the description of this video, the description box. Just go ahead and pull down the description and you'll see the link to the first and second farm log videos. You can catch up with how everything has progressed since those 2 videos. But like I said, this mango tree here is now about 8 feet tall, and you can see all the growth. I'm gonna have to do a video specifically here for the mango tree and go into depth on how its progression has been. But as for now, there's our mango tree. Here on the right side are some more of that sugar cane. So these are the green variety, and in this one here is a mix of the red and green. So I planted 2 sugar cane stalks next to each other, red and green, so they're all mixed up in there together. No big deal. And these guys here are all yellow. Here are the bananas. So the bananas were planted all along here on the right side, and the bananas have been producing rapidly and non-stop. And a lot of folks, if you look at their videos on how to grow bananas, they like to grow bananas through generations, I guess you can call it. So you would have the first generation, which would be one that's fruiting, let's say like this. The second generation would be one that would be halfway to that process, so that when you cut this one down, the other one, it doesn't take much longer for it to come up and fruit. And the youngest generation would be, well, some would have 4 or 3. It depends on who you are and how rapid your bananas produce. But then you have some of the smaller ones, and everything else that shoots off, they would take it off and they would replant it. That's good and great for those who have space to plant these bananas, because as you can see, they grow very rapidly, and you'd have about 10 of them in one area. And it's hard work. It actually is hard work to dig these guys out and take them and replant them, which is good because it gives you good exercise for being out here at the farm, which is exactly what farming is all about: exercise, production, and living on your own. But going back to the bananas, you can see here I've got 3 banana racks here. One that's behind this one, so this one will definitely get to the point of harvesting before this guy here, and this guy here is beyond the point of harvest. So there's just so many bananas around here, it's not a big deal. This variety here you can eat. I'm not going to go too far in depth with all the plants out here, because this is basically supposed to be a video to show the progression of the farm, the area that I'm farming here. So I'm going to be very general with everything that I'm talking about, and later on I'll make some videos that go a little more into depth with these specific plants that some of you may have questions about. But this banana variety here, I do not know the name. There are so many names that folks call their bananas. It just depends on where you're from. That I can say the name of this one, and someone else will say, no, it's called this, and another person will say, no, it's called this, and someone else will probably say, well, it's a hybrid between so and so. So it doesn't, none of that matters. What matters is the banana itself. Is it edible? When do you like to eat it? How is it cooked, if it's the cookable type? And when in the meal, what type of meals would you create with these bananas? You could fry them, you could boil them, you could bake them, and you could eat them just like your normal cabin dish. You can let them ripen up and you can eat them. As you can see, the birds and the bugs have already proven that. This banana is very sweet, so I do like to eat it either ripe, or I boil it and eat it with a choice of meat or whatever it is you want to have. Here on the left side is the guava tree. I think on the second farm log there weren't any fruits on this guava tree, but this guava tree has been fruiting quite heavily throughout the past year and a half actually. But some of these guavas, the bugs get them, and some of them they turn out perfectly fine. I tend not to like leaving so many guavas on one branch like this, because the branches are pretty flimsy, and this is what happens to the branches. So if you do have guavas, I'm sure the guava farmers out there watching this video are like, well, you left too many guavas on one branch and your branches are pretty thin. I am a work in progress, and so is my guava. Eventually these branches will thicken up, just kind of these branches right here, and maybe we can help this plant support itself a little better in the future. I just love learning how to take care of these plants by watching them and how they react to certain circumstances and situations, I guess you can say. But yes, a fair amount of these guavas do get eaten by the bugs. It's no big deal, because I have lots of guava trees out here, and we actually get so many that some of them just don't even get eaten. But you can see here, I think in my opinion I'd leave 2 guavas in a cluster of guavas like this, but there are 4 here, and there you go. You can see some pests there. A lot of folks freak out. Maybe some of them rightfully do freak out because they depend on these guavas for sale, to make some money to help them out on their farm. But for me, This is a passion, and this is something that I just absolutely love doing, and watching the plants grow and produce. And I love watching my kids run through here, and as well as family and my other half run through here and just pick stuff right off of the plants and have themselves a nice little snack. But continuing on the right side, I know this kiddie pool is kind of like an eyesore, but I use it here to catch rain, so I don't absolutely have to pump water all the time, but I could just get some water out of this little kiddie pool here that I brought from home and water those plants there, because all these plants here you see are going to be put into the ground eventually out here at the farm. So that's something very exciting to look forward to here in the future. And although the plants may look very small right now in their pots, they will get absolutely larger, significantly larger, being put into the ground. And an example of that is this soursop. You'll see on this channel quite a few videos on this channel are on this soursop. And this is one of the first fruiting trees that I put into the ground. And she is doing beautifully. As you can see here, the trunk is well established. No complaints from this tree, and no complaints about it. I basically put it in the ground. I think in the beginning when I first transplanted it, I may have just scattered some fruit tree fertilizer, but that was it. And for the most part, I just put this tree in the ground and I monitored how much water it gets, because it wasn't getting much water, and at times it would get lots of water. But being put into the ground, I don't have to worry about drainage here, because all that water just keeps going down and the plant eventually just gets what it wants. But the soursop tree is doing great. It is very tall. As I've said before, the pests tend to take what they want out here, but I've gotten over 10 soursops off this tree already that I've eaten, and sometimes it's okay to let the bugs have it. I probably will spray this later with some water and soap to get the ants off, so they can get those scales off as well. I might also put some packaging tape around the trunk, but I don't find it to be an immediate need. Right now it doesn't bother me, because like I said, I've had so much soursop within the past couple months that I've pretty much had my fill for a while. Here on this stump is some dragon fruit cuttings that I picked up off the side of the road. I haven't quite made the video on the dragon fruit yet. I don't think. I'll just have to take a look at my videos to see if I did, but I don't think I did. But yeah, there's a dragon fruit there. It's been here for over a year. As a matter of fact, it probably is maybe 2 years already. Here is the cacao tree, and this guy is about 8 feet tall and about 8 feet wide. And I've done some pruning to it to kind of keep the foliage from getting bunched up there in the center, because it likes to bring up a whole lot of offshoots like this, and they just pop up all over the place. If you look along the trunk, I've picked a bunch of it off while it was still young, and I've done quite some pruning to it. You see this branch here that I let be the, I guess you call the leader, down the center of it, and that guy is all the way up here. So a cool fact about the cacao tree here is, and I know this for a fact because I've been growing it and watching it grow, is when it grows up like this, it doesn't just continue to grow down the middle with branches growing down the sides. It stops like this and it puts out fingers. As a matter of fact, it's kind of cool because I'm looking at it now. It's like 5 fingers. It opens up like this. Instead of just growing straight up, it actually opens up. And these guys send off side shoots like that. And if you look down to the center of the plant, that's exactly what happened. You didn't have branches coming off the side. It kind of opened up. 1, 2, 3, 4, and I left this one to be the 5th branch. But there are lots of flowers all along where this plant would technically send off fruits from, but no fruits yet. And I've got no problem with that, because all I've got is time, and time will eventually do its thing with the cacao. Here is the Rangoon creeper from home. I put it out here. It has yet to establish itself because the roots haven't popped out of the drainage holes yet and put themselves in the ground. This is another example of leaving the plant in the pot to let it root through the pot and into the ground. I don't know if I'm going to leave him here permanently, but in the case I decide to move him, I could go ahead and snip the roots one at a time while I feed the pot so that most of that energy kind of stays in there. And eventually I'll have them to the point where I have only one set of roots going into the ground. I'll cut that and I'll transplant this guy. But the Rangoon creeper grows so easily that I probably won't ever do that. It just makes it easier to put it into the ground and have it grow like that versus digging a giant hole and putting them into the ground. But this guy is beautiful, and I can't wait for it to establish itself and start flowering out here because it will do amazing here for the garden. One thing I neglected to show you was this bed here. On the last farm log, I think there was just some garbage and recyclables inside this grow box, and now you can't even see the grow box anymore because I threw some oregano cuttings into here and they have taken over this little pen. And there's the grow box, and you can see all around the fencing here, this was supposed to be a little vegetable growing or fruit growing area, maybe like watermelons or cucumbers for my other half to grow her stuff in. We threw some oregano cuttings in there, and since then this is what's happened. I don't mind it because I like taking oregano cuttings, seeing as how they take over like this. It is a useful plant compared to some other weeds. Although all plants are useful to some extent, some for us human beings we tend to find more useful than others. And oregano is an example of that. It grows like a weed and it's crazy. It's like taking over, and it wants to crawl outside of the fence, but I have to keep it at bay for now. But I do like taking cuttings off of the sides from the grow box, and I plant them in places to create a little weed barrier. So like along the back here where you can see these rocks, I also, let's go over there and take a look. I've got lots of oregano cuttings that I threw back here to kind of create a border, and you can see mixed in there with some of the weeds is all this oregano, and it goes down that way. But we have all this oregano all over the place, and there's just so much of it. It's amazing, and I love it. But I almost forgot to show you what happened to that little garden bed. Over on that side, you could see another soursop tree right there, some tea leaf, red tea leaf cuttings that I'm growing here. I just want to add some color to this little garden area. Another guava tree here. You can see the coconut trees also in the back. Some of them, this guy was the first guy I put out here, so he's definitely significantly bigger than the rest of them. But lots of stuff. You see the bananas over in the backdrop. My father-in-law planted these bananas out here, and I basically just kind of take care of everything beneath them so that the bananas can do their thing. Some remnants of the yams that I originally had planted here. Ever since I planted those yams from the very first, from the get-go, when I first established this area, cleaned it out and weeded it, I planted yams, and they just don't stop producing. They just keep popping out. Even when I harvest them, tiny little remnants of the yam, little bulbils, will be out here to continue creating more yams. The bananas again, this isn't the only variety out here at the farm. There are probably 6 different varieties out here we have now. The elephant ears aren't doing so great because the soil here is so very poor quality. Here's a ginger plant that I put out here. It doesn't look too good, but if you look closer, it is sending off a brand new little shoot right there. So everything survives, and some things just really thrive out here. There's the shell ginger that I put out here, and it is huge, and it just doesn't stop putting off flowers. I I'd say I put him in the perfect spot out here at the farm because she loves where she is, and her base is super thick out here. Just keeps setting off more shoots. I'm gonna definitely have to pull some shoots off and transplant and create more shell ginger areas out here. Just very beautiful. There's some more bananas forming right here. Lots of offshoots at the base. Some Dracaena cuttings that I have yet to put into the ground. And as I've said, if you look back at the other farm logs, you will see just how significantly this change has happened. Just how different it looks compared to the other two videos. Progression has been amazing, and these plants are amazing. You let nature do its thing, and this is what you get. Here are some yellow butterfly ginger here. Some more yellow butterfly ginger there. Some galangal or galangal, depends on who you are, once again, what you like to call them. They haven't done extremely well, but I look forward to some better production here in the future. I may transplant some of it soon. All along this side, there are our pellet plants. I think if you look at the first farm log, you'll see when we first put these guys into the ground, they were just cuttings, and now we've got some big old pellet plants that need to be recut, pruned, and replanted. And when I do that, I may take out this whole root ball of pellet, let it rest, and then replant. And if not, I may just cut lower and see if these giant trunks create some good offshoots that we can get some good pellet leaves from. And this is what that leaf looks like right there. As you come down on this side, it is pellet plants, banana plants, pellet plants. This one died. Banana plants, pellet plant, bananas, lots and lots of bananas. And another pellet plant here, and here is a star fruit. This guy is the slowest growing of all the star fruits I have out here. Nevertheless, it is growing. Lots of bananas out here. Our red ginger over there, still alive, but barely alive. And I'm definitely gonna need to do some regrowing off of these little shoots here to keep the legacy of our ginger, our red ginger, miniature red ginger, alive. Here is the mountain apple tree. It has broken once again. This is the second time a major break has happened, but you can see on the left and right bottom side of the main trunk that there's some new growth coming off of the plant. And although it's sad to have to let the tree restart, at least it is still alive. I have faith in this little guy, and I'm sure he will grow to his full potential eventually. Here are some Tabasco peppers I just kind of threw out here. This one was barely alive when I brought it out here. And the only reason it is small like that is because of this canopy. If I were to cut these tree branches off and let that sun penetrate and get through here, this Tabasco pepper will absolutely love it. Here on the right side, as you can see, we're on the right side, headed back. We have a guava here, white guava. Down along here, you can see the coconuts. And here's a star fruit tree. I did some topping of all of my fruit trees out here because I think it's about time. And I'm not worried about it because if this does affect my plants significantly in a negative way, I still have the mother tree out there in the front that I can take more seedlings off of and restart. I don't have a problem with restarting the growing process. As I always say, all we have is time, and all we could do is just go along with it. And as long as you get these plants into the ground, time will do its thing. Here's one of the starfruit trees. Well, another one of the starfruit trees. Doing perfectly fine here on this slope. I was contemplating growing them here on a slope. You'll find videos specifically on these trees, except for the coconuts actually. On my channel, you'll find videos where I am first growing these. This here is, of course, for those you know, lemongrass, and I planted a couple lemongrass bushes out here. I'm trying to create a much more dense growing environment. As you can see, I've added these lemongrass in between the fruiting trees, and here in this small space I have a soursop, there's coconut, there's the lemongrass, guava, and starfruit. So those are 5 things that are no more than 15 feet apart. And I know a lot of you may think, holy smokes, that is not enough space between your trees, but it is perfectly enough space, because as long as I keep them pruned and keep them cut down to the size I want, there's lots of space for everyone. Even when the coconut grows up and creates that canopy, perfectly fine. By then I'll have guava trees growing in other places. The starfruit can grow with lots of trees perfectly fine, whether under the canopy or above. It grows perfectly fine with other plants. The competition for nutrients in the ground is not so significant, because out here at the farm we have an abundance of organic matter to feed these plants with. Although I haven't fed any of these plants with organic matter out here yet, they've just gotten what they've gotten from the soil. Look at them, they're doing amazing. Here's another soursop. You can see I've topped it here. So I decided to top them all at about the same time. Well, actually I did on the same day. And they're all about 4 feet high. I'm hoping these branches get thicker and they branch out, and then I'll start controlling it from there, how these soursops like to branch out. Although these guys haven't started fruiting yet, like the first one, that big one in the front that I showed you, they are starting to put off flowers. This flower hasn't fertilized, and I'm not worried about it. I'm gonna let these plants do their thing. I'm not in any rush. This guava here has lots of guavas. There's the example of topping it right there and keeping it kind of tight, more in like a bush type setup, to where these guavas, they get super huge. They get really big and they get heavy, and they just tend to pull down on these little flimsy branches. So I'd like the branches to get thick, very thick. Kind of like this branch here. This branch is very nice. But that's the main leader right there. Some more lemongrass. Coconut trees just look beautiful. Of course, this is the island. We are on the islands here, and coconut trees are just iconic when it comes to being on an island. You can have an island and have one coconut tree and call it home. Another starfruit tree right there, you can see. Right here on the slope. Amazing. Another soursop right here. I got to get some sugar apples out here, because seeing as how the soursops are doing amazing, sugar apples are the cousin, and they're just pretty much the same exact thing, just a different fruit. Here's some tea leaf cuttings I put into the ground, and you can see. Amazing. There's a little shoot right there coming off of this branch, but this guy right here is all clustered down there. I might have to thin that out so I can have one just go ahead and shoot up. Another soursop, coconut tree, some more tea leaves. It's hard to see it right now, but we will get there. The next farm log will show a lot more as time goes, and as I continue to plant different plants out here. You will start seeing a lot more plants, and it will be a lot more dense with different types of plants out here at the farm. And this opening here may not look so open here in the future. It may get tighter as I continue to grow different plants out here, but nevertheless it will be just as beautiful, if not much more beautiful. Here, this is an example of what I'm talking about. In between this soursop here and this bromeliad, well, I have yet to find out the exact name of this plant, but you wouldn't think there's anything growing in here, but there actually is. Right down here, if we take a closer look, is a ginger rhizome. Right there. Here's a little ginger shoot and another one there. And when we come back here in the near future, you will see this space here will be filled with ginger. There's also more ginger right there. This little stem here is also a plant, which is that guy there. Red tea leaves. Another star fruit right back here. The bananas, coconut. The coconuts are going to take years before they get to the point where they're fruiting. But I don't need coconut fruits. It'd just be nice to have them. And who knows, I may be here, maybe not, when they start fruiting. But if they do, imagine how amazing it would have been to have documented all of this from the get-go. I tend to not like to store lots of stuff around my garden because I want it to look as green as possible, but these are the things here that are crucial to helping these plants develop until they establish themselves. And when that happens, I won't need any of this stuff here in this area because everything will basically be supporting either itself or each other. More ginger right here. And here's some aloe vera or aloe, whatever you want to call it. From home, I put out here. Here's another soursop, which stands taller. See, I pruned this guy. Well, I topped him, and you could see the life here on the lower branch. The plant kind of splits off here. You can see all this new life that is bouncing out and flourishing because all of the energy that used to go to getting this tree to grow taller is now going to all these other branches to help the tree grow in whatever way that it could. And here, this hose leads down to my little water well. It's not exactly a well, it's just a little hole I created. It's about four feet in length. It's about 3 feet across from this side to that side. And it's about 4 feet deep. And this is because a stream comes down from the mountains over there, and it just kind of works its way down on the far side, but some of that residual water just comes down through the ground here along the edge here because we're on a slope. We're at the top of a slope here, and it works its way down all the way towards the ocean down there. But I capture some of that water. Let's say it's a little makeshift dam, I guess you could call it, well, a pool. The water fills up and eventually continues going on down towards the ocean. But sometimes it dries up, it doesn't get so deep. But it's got a significant amount of water right now. And it may not look like the cleanest water, but at least it is running water and it isn't stagnant. So I pump this water out, and I don't do it every day, but I do it every now and then for the plants that haven't established themselves out here. And the water continues to go on down in that direction there. But when I need to, that's where I get my water from. And I just use a little water pump and my generator to get that water out. Here is a Tahitian lime tree that has been struggling, but is still growing, and he will get there. But that concludes the walkthrough of the farm for the third farm log. Hopefully, those of you who have been keeping up have gotten a good look at what the little farm area looks like. I'm happy I have this area to go ahead and put my potted plants into the ground, and it allows me to continue growing these plants because there is a future for them as long as I am able to give them what they need. And what they truly need is to be out here in their natural environment doing what they naturally do without any interference from us human beings. As for now, that's it. We'll be back in the future. If you have any questions, go ahead and leave it in the comment section, and I'll try to answer your questions as best I could according to the knowledge and experiences I've gotten throughout these past few years. But as always, thank you for watching.